It's 8:15 Eastern Time, the only time zone that's safe for consumption during pregnancy. That means it's time for C2C Live, brought to you by Campus to Canton. That's Matt Bruening. That's Chris K. I'm Austin Nace. On a non-raptured version of tonight's show, is college football in a talent lull, an end of an era in Stillwater, and we have our post-week 4 top 25, all that and more right after the stinger. Good evening, gentlemen. Thank you for joining us here tonight. Chris, you made it back for round 2, so thank you for agreeing to do at least one more of these shows here with us.
Yeah, I mean, you didn't scare me off too bad, so I'm back.
That was the plan. Tonight, we'll see how it goes. All right. We've been very lucky. We've been getting good news on Wednesdays before we go live here. We're actually going to kick off tonight's show. Ole Miss this week is rolling out. It's Timothy Chambliss, right?
Trinidad.
I just have T Chambliss written down, and I'm like, wait a minute. Trinidad Chambliss is getting his third consecutive start for Ole Miss. Austin Simmons not going to be starting this weekend for them in a big matchup against LSU. Yeah. Chris, I'm just going to come right to you first. How percentage-wise, how much of this is Chambliss good, and how much of this is Simmons still injured?
They keep saying that Chambliss is still injured, but I don't know. At this point, I think you would try to push it if you, in this big of a matchup, if you were not super confident in Chambliss. But I think they're just confident in Chambliss. I mean, why would they be? So I think it's 75% that he's that good, or they trust him that much. And then that, hey, Simmons isn't 100%. Maybe he's 90%. And they just kind of lean on that ankle injury a little bit to give them a couple more weeks of buying time to figure out what to do when everybody's good.
Yeah, I mean, I think I would honestly say it's probably, I agree with Chris, leaning more towards Chambliss being what he's been. I mean, look, we've seen throughout Lane Kiffin's time as a head coach, wherever you want to go, Alabama, USC. I always forget where the one Florida school was. Was it FAU or it was FAU, right? It was not FAU. He's had these quarterbacks that can do it all, not just pass the ball, but also run. Austin Simmons, not that great of a rusher. Chambliss has actually been, I don't know if it's Chambliss or Chambliss.
I think it's Chambliss, but
Chambliss?
Chambliss is how I've thought of it, but I don't know.
He's been fairly good on the ground as well. I was trying to pull up, 62 rushing yards and 2 touchdowns in his first game against Arkansas, 112 last week against Tulane. He's passed the ball as well. I mean, obviously, I do think it'll be a little bit of a different story this week versus LSU. But, I mean, realistically, he goes out there and plays really well and beats LSU. Can you go back to Simmons at this point? I mean, that'd be 3 games in a row Trinidad has been good. And typically these are the games, let's be honest, these are the games that Lane Kiffin and Ole Miss lose. Is this game against Ole Miss? Like, this was a big surprise last year was it Georgia that they knocked off last year? I can't remember who the team was. They beat a good team last year, and everybody was kind of surprised that Lane Kiffin and Ole Miss were finally able to do it. This would be a big win under both of their belts if he's able to get it done. I don't actually know who's favored. I would assume it's LSU, but I think if he ends up going out there and playing well again and they win, I don't know how you go back to Austin Simmons.
Chambliss, by the way, is known for his running. He ran for 1,000 yards at Ferris State, and he was like a finisher for whatever their Heisman is. I think everybody's surprised at how well of a passer he's been. But yeah, he's definitely a dynamic runner, just generally speaking.
Has LSU really played a rushing quarterback this year? I mean, Lagway hasn't really been rushing. There's, he's in a boot this week, whatever else that means. I mean, this is potentially a wrinkle that LSU really hasn't seen a lot of yet this year.
Klubnik, I mean, probably not to Chambliss's level, but look, I'm just trying to throw a guy a bone, right? I get yelled at every time I'm not at least somewhat complimentary of Cade Klubnik. Cade Klubnik can run the ball.
That's fair. They have a bye week after this week too. So if you really intend to make sure that Simmons is right, it does feel like, obviously, if Chambliss had been bad, I'm sure we would see him this week.
Yeah, I mean, they can also play it too, right? Like, what if he stinks, right? In the first big game, I wouldn't consider Arkansas a threatening matchup. Tulane is a good matchup, not a SEC level matchup. If he stinks against LSU, a legitimate contending team, they have the bye week to get Simmons right, and then they can lean into Simmons and say, okay, well, like, you weren't 100%. We needed 100%. And so then it's like you're still having the buy-in from your quarterback. So with the bye week, it definitely helps. So you get that all the time. Like Luke Haas, part of he's like, he was barely used last week. Why would you use him much this week with the bye week? Use it to your advantage, and then you get an extra week of health.
They really basically have 2 bye weeks because they have Washington State the week after. So that's
fair.
A couple of gimme weeks there, I would think, for Ole Miss, although they've been known to drop one here or there that maybe they shouldn't. Predictions for this game, gentlemen? Anything?
I haven't been impressed with LSU personally. The Clemson win doesn't seem as cool now, and they're kind of like Georgia to an extent where they haven't been as dominant as you'd think they'd be against the lesser opponents. Obviously, they just crushed, I think it was Southeastern Illinois or Louisiana, but I mean, when they play some of these other teams, they didn't pop like they used to. So I would rather just go with the home team, Ole Miss, but it's definitely going to be a tight one.
Yeah, I mean, LSU's only getting 1.5, so even Vegas does not think that LSU is that much of a favorite. I would just lean LSU because, again, I think Ole Miss struggles with those matchups. It's an afternoon game too. It's not even a night game, which I think at that point why you would not flex this to the night game for the SEC. But I would lean LSU mainly because when it comes down to it, I'm going to lean on who I think is the better quarterback. And right now, though Nuss struggled last week, 2 weeks ago, pretty bad. I still think Nussmeier is the better quarterback. Still do not believe in Brian Kelly, but I mean, I think this is LSU's year to try and do something. So I'll slightly lean with Vegas and take LSU.
I mean, we don't have to pretend like Ole Miss has been particularly awesome this year. I mean, that win against Tulane last week was kind of the first time they've really not struggled to put a team away. I mean, they whooped Georgia State week 1, whatever. And then they barely beat Kentucky, beat Arkansas by less than a touchdown. I think, that Tulane game, I expected that game to be closer. So I don't know. I'll take Ole Miss just because I think LSU's been in such a rut lately that I think they'll scrape this one out. But
this feels like a top 15 matchup where in 2 months we look back and we're like, why were we so excited about these 2 8-4 teams that played? Like that just screams to me. Matt, you made the point multiple times. Like Ole Miss is notorious for starting 4-0, 5-0, and finishing 8-4, 9-3. Like it's kind of in Lane Kiffin's blood, whether that's talent, coaching, or whatever. It seems to always be there every single season.
I mean, the thing in his favor is if he is able to win this one, I mean, we don't know when at this moment John Mateer is coming back. It's just Georgia and Oklahoma, I think, left on Ole Miss's schedule that are like really decent opponents. So like if Ole Miss and Lane Kiffin are able to pull this one out, like this might be his actual chance of getting into the playoffs, especially since we've heard they're rigging the numbers, the advanced analytics now to get more SEC teams in, according to, the great Paul Feinbaum. So, we'll see what happens. But
Austin's looking like he has no idea what you're talking about.
I didn't hear him say. I thought he was pro SEC.
He is. Though that was the whole thing. He made I didn't watch the whole video, so I'm going to be honest. I'm going strictly based on the subtitles of what I've read on the very limited social media I've been on the past couple of days about how he made some comment about how the committee better be using these advanced analytics now to get more SEC teams in. So SEC is putting pressure on the committee. That's what I read from the tweet. It's like, cool, I'm getting back off social media.
The 5 minutes was great.
That's enough of that for today. Yeah.
Something about that, Raptures and Tylenol, and I was like, I'm done for the day. I'm going back to having fun.
Raptures and Tylenol, baby. Welcome to America. Real quick, guys, before we get into the rest of the show here, if you're watching us live, we appreciate it. Thanks for tuning in with us. Go ahead and like the video there and subscribe to the YouTube channel. And then head on over to campus2canton.com while we have you. Take a look over there. Articles, tools, data, rankings, all sorts of different good stuff over there that can be checked out for as little as $2.99 a month. And then head over to Home Field Apparel. Head on Home Field Apparel, guys. Promo code CAMPUS, the number 2 Canton, get you 15% off over there. I've got my banana slugs on tonight. My rep in the Home Field. I guess you guys didn't get the assignment. That's all right. We'll work on that.
I do. I have my I forgot. The Arizona
Oregon?
State one. I forgot my Arizona State shirt. No, it's Raise the Forks, I think, on under my Donkey Kong hoodie.
There we go.
I just have a V-neck on, so yeah, sorry.
You had to class it up with the Donkey Kong, obviously, for tonight's show.
Of course.
All right, let's talk Mike Gundy. Mike Gundy fired as head coach at Oklahoma State. Been at Oklahoma State for 20 years now, which feels crazy. I believe I saw somebody say that his "I'm a man, I'm 40" speech turned 18 this week. Wow. And I think even people that don't necessarily know football that well, some of those famous rants people know, playoffs, and I'm a man, I'm 40, and some of those other ones over the years. Practice, the Allen Iverson, definitely on the Mount Rushmore of those. Overall record there at Oklahoma State, 170-90. That's pretty great at a program that certainly has had its years, but generally it's worse than that. However, record the past 2 years, 4-11. He does feel like a coach that the game has potentially passed him by, or at least the modern athlete has potentially passed him by, Matt. I don't think this was surprising, but do you think the timing was correct? Do you think they should have waited at the end of the season? I saw that rumor that maybe they had offered to let him agree to step down at the end of the year and work to the end of the year. And he said, no, I don't know. I saw some conflicting stuff on whether that was true or not, but what did you think about the timing of everything?
I mean, from an outside perspective, because I don't personally know Mike Gundy, but from an outside perspective and the bravado and confidence that he shows in a lot of areas, it would not surprise me in the slightest if they did offer him the opportunity to finish out the year and step down, and he said to hell with that and walked off, which I think is also kind of a cool thing to do. If someone's like, hey, we're going to let you finish here and you step down, I'm like, I'm out. He's getting paid either way. So I appreciate that part of it. I think it's a couple of years too late, if you want me to be honest. I know, was it last year or was it 2 years ago that he had a decent year? They were 10 and something
2 years ago. Yeah.
But outside of that, he has not hit double-digit wins in a while. I want to say it was all the way back in it was maybe 2016, 2017 is the last time he hit double-digit wins outside of that year. I think that, obviously I thought that the downfall was kind of coming after that shirt that he wore. I don't remember what it was about, but it was a big deal back at the time. He does seem like, I think the best way to put it, as you mentioned it there in the intro, was just seems like college football's kind of passed him by. And especially this new era of college football. I think obviously what he was able to do for a university like Oklahoma State should be celebrated in that essence. I do think it's hard, especially you said, was it 20 years that he's been the head coach? I don't know that we will ever see stuff like that again. I think, the three of us have been very blessed in some of the dynasties and coaches that we have seen go throughout college football that I just don't think we'll see ever again. But I do think it was time for them to move on. As for the timing, I mean, I think honestly, of the schools that are open right now, this would be the top of the list, would it not? I'd put this over Virginia Tech and I forgot who the other school was.
UCLA.
UCLA.
That tells you all you need to know right there.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. They're by far the third school, in my opinion, on that. But yeah, I think especially with the rumored, I know they're not toward the top of the NIL, but from everything I've heard and read, they have at least decent NIL. I think this would be a school that people would go into. Oklahoma State, sitting in the Big 12 right now, is mainly for the most couple of years been considered a wide open conference all the time. So someone possibly could step in and turn this team around quickly. I think in a way you kind of can't control. I mean, obviously you have the Oklahoma Sooners there who will likely always be king of Oklahoma, but they are in the SEC. So again, you are the big school in the Big 12 there in that state, which someone who lives down here in the South, again, Oklahoma and Texas, it's football god family in that order for a lot of people down here. So I think that someone could turn this program around fast, and why not? Why not make the move now and then be one of those first schools to try and get whomever you want if you can? You can now just start reaching out to anybody and everybody and just start going down your list. I don't think they'll get whomever their top couple candidates are, but I think that they'll probably be the first of the three right now to get the head coach, the first head coach off the market.
I think there's some things that came into play here, right? He kind of is like Dabo in a sense where he's kind of getting passed by with new ways of doing things and not adapting or maybe not being good at it, right? And he has been so successful at the school that it's you treat that person correctly on the way out, except it's Mike Gundy. He's kind of not, like Frank Beamer, you do that for. You concede some victories because of it, but like in Dabo, sure. But like you don't really do that for Gundy, especially if you give him the offer of, hey, retire at the end of the year. But the other part of it is like from a competitive standpoint, with Tech and UCLA already firing their coaches, you have to think about it from like a who can you get standpoint. I don't think the coaching pool is overlapping much between the three schools, but it's not going to stop. I think I saw something that said 3 Power 4 coaches were fired midseason last year, and now we already have our third in 2025. So from a competitive standpoint, if he's not going to go out, as gracefully as Mike Gundy can do it at the end of the year, then why not just get a head start on your next season? I do think there's an interesting name out there. The Falcons offensive coordinator Robinson, the former quarterback that played there, would be a really interesting name. I know Falcons fans, if you're around this part of town with Jared and I, don't love what he's doing with the Falcons. So feels like a pretty good fit, considering he's alumni and was a quarterback there. So I think that's a super interesting name to follow.
Yeah, I've seen that one. And Golesh coached there too at one point, right? I think I saw somebody saying as well. He was some sort of assistant, not like an OC or anything, but I think he was on the staff at some point there as well. So, there was a connection there, but I mean, that feels like a stretch. I don't know. I mean, Chris, you kind of made a face. You're also a little biased, but is it a better job than Virginia Tech? Like, I mean, it's probably like neck and neck in terms of, and maybe, if you value one small thing over another small thing at a school, I think those two are pretty close, pretty comparable overall.
It's probably pretty close. I think what comes down to is this whole new proposal of a huge budget that Virginia Tech has essentially put in place that they're voting on at the end of the month. That seems like it's going to go through. You got Bruce Arians running like the GM head coaching search. So there's a lot of good things that trend upwards. If the budget is that's proposed is approved, it puts them in line essentially with Florida State and Clemson in the ACC. So if that's the case, I would say Tech is better than Oklahoma State, but there's not really any other reason to like one over the other except for money. I think both of them have really good backgrounds, good conferences to be a coach of. I think it's just a little bit of like cultural fit, where are you from type of thing, I think matters a little bit, especially like Virginia Tech loves that whole thing of like, he's a Hokie, just like Michigan people love Michigan man type of thing. So we'll see, but I think it's a pretty tight, I think it's just, a debate. It's a good debate. There's no wrong answer, I think.
You would. Oh, God.
Go ahead, Max. I was going to close it out. So
to say you would be correct. Alex Golesh was at Oklahoma State 1 year grad assistant. Real quick, do you know he's born in Moscow? Did not know that.
Golesh?
Yeah, graduated from Ohio State as well.
I heard he's a Russian asset. We should look into that.
Those two things line up, Matt.
They do. More than you know.
One bonus point for anybody who can name the head coach before Mike Gundy at Oklahoma State. You know who this person is.
Barry Switzer.
That's about how many coaches back do I have to go? Wait, no, Switzer never coached there. He coached at Oklahoma.
Same.
Yeah, it's the same thing. Dude, I have no idea. Can you give me a hint?
Coached at LSU for a time.
Oh, I know who it is.
LSU?
I'm pretty sure I know who it is.
Go ahead, Chris.
Orgeron.
No. Les Miles?
Les Miles was the head coach before Mike Gundy at Oklahoma State. I did not.
I would have never. Yeah, had you not said the LSU thing, I would have never guessed.
No, so, you know the person, but I don't think we ever would have guessed that. So, it'd be interesting to watch that coaching search. They might be the first. I'm going to put it out there now. I think they're the first of the 3 schools that's fired somebody to make the next hire.
That's what I just said.
Did you?
Yeah. In my whole rant, I said they'll be the first of the 3 to get their first. It's okay. I get it.
I agree with
sometimes.
You. Sorry, I missed that piece of it. I was too busy thinking about Les Miles.
Fair.
All right. We've bandied this about a little bit over the past year and a half, maybe, that it does feel like college football right now, in terms of obvious top end kind of NFL future guys, seems to be a little thinner than it has been in the past at pretty much across the board. We've lamented running back is pretty poor right now. I think, the consensus coming into this year is the wide receiver is a weaker class. None of the quarterbacks have performed that well. That are immediately coming out. So I think it's time, since we're a month into the season here, to maybe have this discussion, guys. Do we think that we're just in the middle of a talent void in college football, especially as it relates to, again, a professional NFL future? Chris, let you go first.
I say yes. I just only because I don't feel like I'm excited about really anybody. Like at least this year, right? I think everybody's super excited about next to a 2027 draft with Ryan Williams and Coleman and Jeremiah Smith, and like guys to like really give you a good tingle. But like who are you really hyped up about, right? I think like Singleton's very cool, but I mean he doesn't move the needle to me like some of these past running back classes, right? So it just definitely does feel like a tear down compared to previous years. And I don't know, because it feels like last year we kind of had a little bit of the same thing with like quarterback, and this year quarterback feels a little bit lighter too. But years before, so what is it, right? It's not really, it can't be COVID related, because COVID would give you more years, but NFL's not like thriving off of 5th year seniors, right? That's like college football can thrive off of some of that. But I think there's a downtick. I have no idea why. No idea why.
That was going to be my follow-up. I was going to say, why do you think it is?
I have no idea. It makes no sense to me. I mean, in theory, people should only be getting more athletic and bigger and stronger because there's more advances in technology and workouts, et cetera, and diets. And like, why is this here? Maybe it's just bad luck, like.
I think the COVID theory does still have legs if someone was inclined to make that argument. And I don't think that's why, but it did mess up probably 2 recruiting cycles. It kept a lot of guys in school that shouldn't have been there, which probably stunted development for some of these younger guys. And they're starting to reach their junior, senior years where they should be the guy, and maybe the opportunities they got before that weren't afforded to them. I don't think that's the reason, but I do think that there is an argument to be made there that it could be. So, but when in doubt, blame it on COVID. I don't know. Seems
we can only do that for a couple more years here. I mean, that's getting to be a little bit ridiculous. I don't know. I'm kind of torn on this. I do think at some positions it has been, and I'm going back to when we first started this company. And obviously, the main 2 we always used to talk about were Justin Fields and Trevor Lawrence. But I feel like maybe more at the top of each position that it was deeper, if that makes sense. I felt like there was a lot more players that we truly liked at the top of each position. I mean, I remember when we did our running back rankings episode, we were talking about 5 or 6 running backs in that top tier of running backs that we really liked. I remember having the argument with Felix about Bijan Robinson and Breece Hall, like their athleticism and what it would come down to going into the NFL. Where nowadays, like I think you look at the running back, what are we talking about? Like maybe 3 guys, maybe 3 guys that we really like that possibly moving forward. Wide receiver, I think, is an interesting position. I do think that there's actually a decent amount of wide receivers. I still think that's probably the deepest position right now. I mean, quarterback, I think you could argue, honestly, is fairly light. I mean, I just pulled up our C2C rankings, and right now we have a true freshman in Bryce Underwood sitting as our number 1 quarterback in all of college football. And that, granted, again, that's looking at it from a fantasy perspective, but also just think about that. Bryce Underwood, true freshman, who has been fine, but has not been like lighting the world on fire, which again is also fair because he's been a true freshman. But that's the guy we have as our number 1 quarterback in our C2C rankings. Like, I do think that there is a little bit of a talent void at the position. I don't know what the problem is either. The one I do know what the problem is at running back is because of how much college and NFL has devalued that position. I mean, Austin, we as 2 people who do a lot of the high school recruiting stuff now, I feel like we see it now. There's maybe 1 guy a class that you're truly interested in as like an elite running back. I think this is
the first year that we've had 2.
Yeah.
Since the Singleton class?
Yes. Yeah, because I think the only one, the only class that some of us had 2 was the Baxter Haynes class. Some of us had Baxter and Haynes. Most of us had either Baxter or Haynes. I had both in my tier 1, but I know not everybody did. But it was not even been close, right, with all those other classes of anyone having more than 1 running back in it. And again, I think a lot of that just goes back to the devaluation of that position by the NFL and college football. So you see a lot of these guys trying to switch positions, whether that's going to linebacker, going to play wide receiver, whatever it is, that part I think is really the position that's been hurt the most based on the shifts of college football of late. I honestly do think the thing that's hurt the quarterback class as well is it fair to say it's because of Patrick Mahomes? I think we see so many quarterbacks nowadays just try to do the extraordinary instead of focusing so much on just being like mechanically sound. And I mean, again, it works for some, like it really does work, but there's not, in my opinion, there's very few players who are going to end up being like Patrick Mahomes, Josh Allen, Justin Herbert. I don't know that you could put in that category with Allen and Mahomes, but I feel like as someone who watches a lot of these high school quarterbacks, and Austin, you can tell me if you disagree with this, I feel like all these guys are always trying to do now all the off-platform stuff, all the multiple arm angle throws. And some of those guys, because of that, their mechanics are so bad that when they come into college football, sometimes you just can't fix that. And college coaches aren't focusing on that anymore. College coaches need to win. They have to win because of the way it is now with NIL and the 12-team playoff. If you don't make it every couple of years, you're out the door and you're trying to find a new job. So I think it's just been a big, the changing landscape of college football, I think, has forced a lot of that in there to where now we're only really seeing the elite of the elite sit at the top of the position. And then maybe those guys who we've seen over the past couple of years who were close develop into someone like that. Like the only one I can think of over the past couple of years, and we still don't even know if he'll be a first-round pick, is Sam Levitt. Sam Levitt was a guy who was very far down by all the services, right? I think he was a 3-star, if I'm remembering that correctly, Austin. We had him high. But if I remember by all the services, they had him at 3-star. That's the only guy quarterback-wise over the past couple of years I can think of off the top of my head that's kind of slowly developed into possibly being a high-end NFL pick from the quarterback position. I mean, it happens more often from running back and wide receivers. But, yeah, I think all those – Cam Moore, that's a great one. Yeah, Incarnate Ward, yeah. Those guys, I feel like we're going to see less and less of that just based on the circumstances building around college football right
now. Maybe. I don't know that any of us have a good answer. So it's like, maybe that's it. I don't know that I have a reason as to why it is, outside the fact that I do think, like, put my boomer hat on, and wherever my boomer hat is, I think sometimes staying at a place with a staff that knew you and recruited you, as long as like just poop hasn't hit the fan, I think there's a lot of benefit to being in the same place for a while and kind of learning and growing and overcoming hurdles, like overcoming difficulties. Now, if you're not happy with your playing time now, you just leave and you go somewhere else and you try to play the next year. It makes me sound like such as like an old fogey, but I really do think that there's a lot of value in that. We see so many of these guys leave now after freshman year. Like, I have a really hard time believing that really any head coach, especially nowadays, is going into kids' living rooms and telling them that they're going to play as true freshmen. At least not significantly.
Yeah, I will add on top of that, because I do think I listened to some different NFL fantasy podcasts, and it's like, well, this quarterback's had his 5th offensive coordinator in 5 years. He's struggling, and it makes complete sense, right? You're learning a new system. Maybe the coaching, Matt kind of alluded to a little bit of like, are they super focused on mechanics as much as like running a specific system when it comes to like quarterbacks? And I think that all can play a part of it. And I don't think it's like boomerish. I just think it's, what would change after your freshman year that's going to make you want to leave, right? Besides money. And that's it. Like, you shouldn't go into your freshman year of college thinking like you're just immediately going to play or immediately see some increased value. There's a little bit of like, you went to Alabama. There's like 1 million 5-star guys on this team. Why would you immediately think one way? But yeah, I think you benefit from learning from the same people.
A lot of these guys have that confidence that they're going to go in and play right away. And I respect that. I think there is a level to that you need to have. But I also think that there needs to be a sense of realism too. And I don't think a lot of these, I think a lot of these guys have people around them that are telling them that either.
No, I think a lot of them are. I don't want to say the players are, but I would imagine, based on certain conversations we've had too with certain people, like a lot of that stuff with the money thing, I think too clouds a lot of people's judgment on
They'll
that.
Leave for $5,000 more, $10,000 more. It's like negligible raises that people will leave to a different school for. Yes, we've heard many, many stories of that being the case. I don't know. I will say I'm actually more excited for the 2026 class than I was at the beginning of the season. So
can I hijack a little bit real
Yeah.
quick? My first hijack of C2C. It's 2026 class, technically. What's up with Lenore Sellers? Like, how? I mean, I know he got hurt in his 2 games ago, but like, how are you ending with negative rushing yards when you run like you do for 2 straight games? Like, is he hurt? It kind of feels like Lagway. Is he hurt? Is it bad play calling? Like, what's the situation? Because I'm watching these games with him, and I'm like, he looks way better as a passer now, and he looks pretty inadequate as a runner. It's shocking.
Well, I know
think
for
it's the rec
sure.
specs. I think he needs to bring back the rec specs.
It's possible.
Just saying.
Can't see the lane.
I mean, just speaking from a strictly fantasy or football point of view, he did rush backwards like a negative 30-yard sack toward the end of that game. So that's probably why
he had like a huge sack. Yeah,
it was pretty bad. But I think that's, again, part of it is these guys. Again, I don't want to pull an Austin and throw my boomer hat on because I like to pretend like I'm young and hip. Like, what's up, you fellow youngsters? That kind of guy.
Donkey Kong sweatshirt on.
Yeah, with my Donkey Kong hoodie on. But I think all 3 of us can remember a time in college football where quarterbacks weren't – I have no problem with quarterbacks doing that, but quarterbacks weren't doing that. When the play was over, they're just throwing it out of bounds. Nowadays, because of what we've seen in the NFL and college football, it's, well, I'm going to run around for 50 yards behind the line so I can make a play and get on SportsCenter. And I just think that, again, a lot of that stuff is – I don't want to say being coached out, but maybe – oh God, I can feel I'm going to get all kinds of hate in our Slack channel for hating on players now with this statement, but like maybe players believing too much in their ability sometimes to do things and maybe just play it safe. Sometimes just throw it out of bounds, take the loss and go for the next play.
I mean, I do wonder how many of these coaches are hesitant to coach guys up as hard as they used to, too, you know?
Oh, 100%.
Where, you know, to use your example, Matt, and I don't know if I necessarily like anecdotally agree with this or not, or but the stats back it up. You're saying like all these quarterbacks tend to scramble around a lot more kind of behind the line of scrimmage to buy time. If you did that before when there was no recourse to the play, like, you know, okay, you want to leave, you're going to go sit for a year and then, you know, whatever.
Yeah.
They would probably lay into them. Whereas now maybe some coaches are a little more afraid to do that. You know, I don't know. I know Saban said that he didn't think that the players were necessarily listening when he did coach like that to a certain degree last year. And that's how we knew it was time to go. And whether that's completely true or not, we'll probably never really know. But I do think Saban is more or less a straight shooter on that kind of stuff. So yeah, I think there's some truth in that. I don't know.
We have gotten so boomer on this one.
We have.
Yeah.
But you know,
it's okay, sweet.
Stay in school. Stay at the school that wanted you.
It's okay, sweet baby child. Nothing you did there was wrong. I was wrong. I coached you wrong. I messed up. You're amazing. You're perfect. You do you. Go get him, Tiger.
I don't know. I have been impressed with Sellers throwing. I think like from a yards per attempt standpoint, it has improved. And he showed that at the end of the second half of last season, that big improvement. I just am thinking like from a fantasy standpoint, I'm like, man, like he should be able to take a 25-yard sack and still end with positive yards. Like, and I think there's a little bit of that probably with play calling that's impacting, but part of me is like, man, it just feels like something is off. With like Lagway is like, he doesn't want to take a hit. Like he doesn't want to run because it feels like he doesn't want to take a hit or what have you. Right. And then he shows up in a boot. So just was curious if you guys had a perspective that was a little bit on like the behind the scenes of what might be going on there.
No, I mean, I definitely think it's partially injury because I didn't think he looked horrible to start off the season. But and again, I don't know. Maybe it is to take the hit. Oh God, who did they play last week that I'm trying to remember now? Missouri. I mean, I just feel like that offensive line has been really bad to start this year too. I feel like Sellers is running for his life a lot more than maybe I remember him doing it last year, and that could be completely wrong. It just might be, what have you done for me lately? But I feel like Sellers has been running a lot more than he's had to in the past, and that's probably affecting him more than I'm giving it credit for.
He says, let me run when I want to run, not when you're making me run. I see you, Lenoris. Someone says, think Beamer takes Sellers with him to Virginia Tech. I think there's a pretty much a 0% chance that Beamer does go there. But I did think that I know the Cover 3 guys talked about it with an interesting hypothesis where South Carolina is bad this year and he basically just wants to reset the clock. could he consider that? I don't know. If that's the best option. To go with
Does
that
Virginia Tech really want to reset the clock guy like that? I feel like the scenario where he could go to Tech is if he's so bad, but then why would Tech want him if he's so bad? That's like the kind of the tricky part there. I don't think it's realistic, but also considering the names that are being thrown around,
I think Beamer has been about as successful as like you can really be at South Carolina nowadays. I mean, he's butted up right against like 10 wins and hasn't been able to quite get across that barrier. I don't know. I mean, the last time South Carolina won double-digit games was 2013. Like, that's a lifetime ago in college football with how things have changed, and that was with Steve Spurrier. You know, they won 9 last year. They won 8 a couple years before that. Like, it's tough to. It feels like they're the little brother in a state that isn't super rich in high school talent anyway. Overall, they have a couple guys every year, but and it's in the South, so it's going to get hit hard by some of the other schools around there as well. I don't know. I don't think it doesn't seem to me that they have a ton of money. I don't know. It just feels like, you know, you're hoping you just kind of catch everything luckily one year and you win 11 games or whatever. It's kind of what best case is there.
The problem is they're guaranteed Clemson and Georgia every year. And for a lot of those years, that's really, really bad. That's really, really bad start to your schedule. So
true. That's a very good point. Yeah. All right. Last topic here before we hit our top 25 for the week, guys. I know we have some disagreements. You already hear people saying that Jaren Kiave, Sagan Pulatele, and Malik Washington are going to be searching for new schools this summer because they're not at the typical national powerhouses.
Yeah.
And I get why people are having that discussion, but I want us to sit here tonight and come up with a sales pitch for both those guys to stay at Cal and Maryland, respectively. Chris, you just didn't like the assignment. This is a no for you.
I can't come up with the answer to this assignment. There's just, in this day and age, I don't know. I think both of them have very interesting backgrounds or situations that lean towards why would they not leave. Starting with Mike Loxley at Maryland, right? That's the head coach. Like,
yeah,
he's gonna be there long. And I don't know. Is anybody allegiant to their school anymore? Like, is anybody like, I bleed, you know, crimson and white? Like
Ohio State quarterbacks. That's about all I can think. Whatever Ryan Day puts in the Kool-Aid and in the locker room there gets those guys to stay. That's about it.
True. But like, you know, Maryland is never going to be a powerhouse in the Big Ten. And like, if a head coach is fired, then there's a easy opening. And then with JKS, I mean, he was literally committed to Oregon. You know, I think Felix tweeted it like, you know, hey, what if Dante Moore continues to be great? He gets drafted and then there's an opening, right? Like, the transfer portal is just way too wild and reckless, and money is crazy. I don't know how legitimate this is. I mean, it was years ago, but there was some article about how the top 50 schools in terms of donor giving, and obviously it's a little bit different now than it was a 2005 to 2022 study. And Maryland was like 48th or 49th, and Cal was like 38th. Like, they don't play in the same ballpark as these other schools. So you'd have to basically give your entire NLL budget or close to it to keep them, which I think you could argue is very much worth it considering the value of the position. But, you know, do they make that decision if that's the route they go? I would lean they probably not, because they could get that money elsewhere in bigger prestige program. So I look forward to you guys swaying me.
Yeah, Matt, sell Chris. Sell this pen to Chris.
Let's start with JKS. Jaren Kiave, Sagan Pulatele. You already transferred once. You left Oregon, which, let's be honest, was the better school. Probably were getting paid more. No, more than likely that Dante Moore was going to be there for probably a year based on Will Stein's track record over the past couple of years of putting these guys into the NFL. Will Stein's going to leave at some point. Sure, Dan Lanning hasn't made many mistakes, but he's going to make one eventually. Do you want that to be on your tenure as you transfer back to Oregon and he hires an offensive coordinator that doesn't work with you the way Brian Harsin works for you right now at Cal? Because let's be honest, you're a player that everybody knows right now in college football because of how good you've been for the Cal Golden Bears. Matter of fact, Nobody knew Cal was even a college until Aaron Rodgers was pretty good there too. I shouldn't have said that, but nobody knew Cal was still a really good college until you've been playing the way that you have late on Saturday nights, and everybody has been talking about this. But you've also talked about this as someone who pays very close attention to the recruiting world. Jaron, you've talked about how you want to feel comfortable. You want to be at home. You want to feel peace and love and all those other great things. And that's why you said you transferred to Cal. You've already experienced that greener grass isn't always on the other side of the fence, and you have it right now in your home there in Berkeley with Cal Golden Bears. You should stay there because also, what else brings you love and peace and kindness? Your family. Now, Oregon is kind of close. Do you really want to go all the way over to like Ohio State? And your family's got to travel all the way from Hawaii to Ohio State or Alabama or Auburn or Georgia or all these other nonsense schools that are just going to treat you like another piece of the cog in the machines that win national championships. And sure, you may not win a national championship at Cal, but you know what you are going to be for the Cal Golden Bears? The centerpiece, the golden piece of this offense and this school. They'll build statues of you, Jaron, if you're able to take the Cal Golden Bears to the playoffs. National championships are overrated. Can you even tell me who the team is that won the national championship last year? Of course you can, because they don't matter. You know who the starting quarterback was? No, it was probably Will Howard. Guess what? He got drafted in the 5th round. Nobody cares about that. Nobody cares about him. You know what we do care about, Jaron? You winning at Cal, continuing to be a great legacy player for the Golden Bears, and being a first-round draft pick. And that will happen with Brian Harsin. And I don't know who your head coach's name is because I forgot at the moment, but he loves you, as do the Cal Golden Bears, as does your family. Stay with Cal. It's what's best for you. Signed off by yours truly, Matthew Bruening.
Laid that on a little thick.
Was it? I thought it was great.
A lot of emotional calls there too.
I learned when I was younger, emotion played a lot more on me than logic did. As I've gotten older, I've realized how much logic makes, making a logical decision is a lot better than the emotional one.
It's funny because I don't think there is a really great pitch from Malik Washington outside of the fact that it's close to home. He's a hometown kid. But I also feel like he's the one that needs to leave a lot more. I just don't think there's a really good pitch there for him. Like, what's the pitch at Maryland? You get to play. I presume wherever he'd go, he'd get to play anyway at this juncture. But I do think there's a really good pitch for JKS. And I do think it's that he was already at Oregon. He went in there and he saw the writing on the wall and left like immediately.
Yeah.
You found a home, a school that believed in you. Like, I don't know that he's going to be itching to get out of there.
Yeah.
I don't know. I don't know what you guys think about that.
I'll say that what I think was really interesting about this, and I don't necessarily like, and I try to refrain from it. I used to joke about it on BTR, and I haven't done it in a while, is like predicting who leaves next. Like, I think in this day and age, like, well, let's just let him be. Like, do we need to make the conversation about where he plays next after he has a great game? Like, I don't know. Like, it feels like we're doing a disservice to the school and to him when it's like, these guys invested in each other, and we're just going to sit here and say, like, yeah, they should go somewhere else. They shouldn't stay at Cal. So I've resisted some jokes, but I would love for them to both stay. I think that type of stuff is what makes college football really cool. Like, I think that's one of the aspects of college football that I miss a little bit, is like these ground up, be there multiple years, like career record type guys. And we're not going to have that anymore. I would love to see more of that because now with the expanded playoffs, Maryland and Cal theoretically could make the playoff if they build some good things. So I think that'd be fun. But I just think for this specific segment, I don't think it's super realistic.
I mean, I don't disagree. I think it would be the loyalty of college football to a certain extent. I mean, I'll use Ohio State as an example here. When you're the Lincoln Kineholes, the Devin Browns of the world, and you stay there for 4 years, and now you've given up your realistic shot of possibly starting at another school and doing something college football, I think is a little silly. But if you go into a place like Jaron did and Malik Washington, and I do have a pitch for Malik Washington as well, in staying there, like, again, I do honestly think that matters for specifically Malik Washington more than JKS, because JKS is not from the Cal area. He's from Hawaii. I don't know many people that want to go to Hawaii to play football, and not meant as like an offensive thing, or at least from his talent level. JKS is someone who legitimately has a chance to be a first-round draft pick. You want me to take it serious on the Malik Washington level? Like, how cool does that have to be from being from the area, a school that you have supported as you were younger, and turn that program around? To take a team like Maryland and make them, again, even if it's not to win a national championship, do you know how revered you will be at the College of Maryland if you take them and, even if it's not win the Big Ten, get to a Big Ten championship, get to the playoffs, and have Maryland on the national stage and people talking about them as a kid who grew up loving that school and wanting to play for them. I mean, again, say what you want. You're right. You might not be wrong. Mike Loxley might not be there long, but Pep Hamilton, who is, I believe that's the offensive coordinator, right? I thought that's who I had written down. Okay. Like, he's coached in the NFL. He knows how to run these systems. And granted, Maryland right now is a very heavy RPO system that works in Malik Washington's favor. Accentuate what you're good at. Continue to look good. And again, if you're able to build something there, like, he could legitimately be a player that at the end of his time at Maryland is looked at as like a legacy player at Maryland. Because, and I hate to put it this way because I don't want to say Malik Washington is not a good player, but like, realistically, what is it? 1% of college football players make it into the NFL and are successful players. How cool would it be to be a player like a Vince Young at Texas? Because, I mean, he was not successful at all in the NFL, but he's a legend. Anytime he sets foot in Austin, he will get Will Howard at Ohio State because he won him a national championship. Now, he didn't do it for 4 years like Vince Young did, that Malik Washington could do. I mean, there's all kinds of players that we've seen take these schools that they love and grew up loving and did something spectacular with them, even if it's not win a national championship, and will never have to, like, they will be remembered and revered forever by those schools. And I do think that is a cool thing. And I think that could happen for a player like JKS and specifically Malik Washington because of, again, him being from the area at Maryland, wanting to go there as a kid and everything else. So I don't want to see that. I don't want to see either one of them leave, to be honest with you. And that's someone coming from, sure, Ohio State has Taven St. Clair, but if they were like, hey, we're going to take JKS, like, I would rather JKS stay at Cal. I'd rather us see these schools like Cal and Maryland and whomever, Virginia Techs of the world, the Oklahoma States. Like, I think the more teams in college football that are good and vying and fighting for these playoff spots and having a chance to win national championships compared to like the same 5 or 6 schools is a lot better for college football than just saying, well, here we go again. It's Georgia versus Alabama and Ohio State or Michigan versus Oregon in the semifinals to get a chance to go into the national championship. It's going to be so much cooler in 2 years.
That makes more teams. That potentially makes Cal and Maryland more viable while those guys are there, right?
Yeah, that's what I'm saying. That's why I'd rather them stay. I'm saying I'd rather JKS stay there than go to Ohio State. As an Ohio State fan, I would rather see talk about Cal is making a run through the playoffs because of Jaron Calvé-Sagaputela. It's what I said last year. It's been, I'm staying on point here. I'm not flip-flopping. This has been my point for the past couple of years about why I love the 12-team playoff. And I talked Boise State specifically a couple of years ago. How great would it be to watch a Boise State team make a massive run through college football players because of a couple players? It would be something we talk about forever. And that is something that those players have a chance to do, is legitimately cement their legacies at schools like that by making these deep runs. Because it's not all about winning a national championship. Can either one of you tell me who won the national championship 5 years ago?
It's 2020, so Clemson. LSU. Who's LSU?
Oh, it was Alabama. They beat Ohio State. It was the COVID year. What about 4 years ago? I only know that because Ohio State lost. That was the reason why I went that far back. Like, I mean, I can tell you Michigan won it a couple years ago because I remember that. But like, realistically, no, outside of you being at that school, you probably cannot tell me who's won the national championship the past couple years, but you can tell me players that have done something special at these schools. And like, that's my point on why you should not transfer out to be the next Ohio State quarterback.
There's also, like, you're going to get drafted anywhere, right? Like,
yeah.
Fernando Mendoza is considered one of the best quarterback options right now, and he's at Indiana, and he was at Cal. And, that's obviously, right, it's 2025. You can get found anywhere, let alone a P4 school. So that is definitely a positive. I would love to see some of these guys stay there forever and throw for 12,000 yards at Maryland. I think that'd be super cool. But I just feel like it's a little unrealistic. But Austin, did you come up with any pitches, or did you just make me feel bad and then not have anything yourself?
You're muted.
I just, for JKS, you've already tried the big school thing. It became apparent to you very quickly why that shouldn't, like, why you weren't going to stay there. I think you would be smart to remember what that feeling was like as you left and went to a school that had recruited him for a long time and he was committed to for a long time. Him and Cal were committed. He was committed to Cal for a very long time, or thought to be basically a sure thing for Cal for a very long time. And then he kind of rocketed up after really Elite 11 that last year. He showed up at Elite 11 and was really, really good. And then had the good senior season, and other teams came calling there. So I think that's the big thing for him. I just think, you saw that already, and you've shown that you can do it at Cal. So I don't see that there's a reason, maybe if year 2 goes really bad, then maybe you think about it. But it seems reasonable to me. All right, let's talk top 25. We have requested that our lovely creative team put together a good graphic for us moving forward. They weren't quite ready to get it ready for tonight, but I do think we need a visual for this. So here's what we're going to do. We're just going with the sheet that we all punched our numbers into, just so everyone can see it here. So here's our top 25 for the week. I don't think there's a lot of change up at the top. Ohio State, Oregon, 1 and 2 for all of us, and that was the case last week. Georgia comes in at 3 there, and for the most part, again, some separation there with them in Miami. Texas A&M at 5, Oklahoma at 6, and then a gap. You see Penn State there, Florida State, Texas Tech at 7, 8, 9. LSU rounds out the top 10. I bumped Penn State down this week, even though they didn't play. I just think their resume is bad. I mean, yes, they're winning the games they should be winning, and they're not generally close games, but they haven't beaten anybody. A really hard time getting excited about that resume when you've got teams like Texas Tech, who went out and looked really good against Utah this weekend, and Florida State, who has the Bama win. I just think there's teams with better resumes right now. Sell me on Penn State at 7. That's just preseason expectation, right?
Not necessarily. I mean, I think you could argue now the only one, at least for me, that I have behind them that I would just consider bumping above them is Texas Tech, because of their win against Utah. That was a very close game, I think, for at least in my opinion, last week. And Utah was a team that I had ranked very highly last week. I believe I had Utah at 8 or 9. The thing is with Florida State, and Chris said this earlier, I can't remember who we were talking about. Oh, it was LSU. Is Alabama that much impressive of a win anymore? I'm sure they're I guess probably going to still be one of the best teams in the SEC, but they haven't, besides beating up on really crappy schools, they have not shown me much, in my opinion. I don't remember who was the other one that I had above them. LSU, I mean, sure. I think we're going to find out a lot more about those two teams this week. So I've kind of just left them in place. LSU against Ole Miss, I think, will be a big game. And then obviously Penn State gets Oregon. And that's where I'll find out a lot about Penn State and Oregon this week. Because that's the other thing, right? Look, I get it. Oregon's been destroying everybody they played, but they also have not played anybody this year. And Ohio State's only played Texas. It's still very early in the season. I still think Penn State's one of the best teams in the Big Ten. They deserve the respect that they should get. And they got to start off the season.
They've also, Penn State's returned a ton of players from a team that was very good last year, right? So that plays into it and helps me feel a little bit better ranking them top 10. It also is a little bit nice knowing that they're going to have tough games coming up that is going to easily make me, move them up or down based on what they do. It kind of will easily validate whatever that needs to be. I think your Indiana pick of top 5 is almost the same boat as Penn State, right? Who have they beaten? They beat Illinois, but
people thought Illinois was good, and now all of a sudden people think Illinois suck because of that game. I mean,
I'm a Big Ten guy. Illinois is Illinois. Illinois is nothing special, Illinois
was trendy playoff pick before this. I'm just saying, this would not have been the same conversation if Indiana wins that game by 2 touchdowns. Are we oh, Illinois sucks? I don't think so.
I think they are almost at a disservice when it's well, how good can Illinois really be if they lost by 100 and immediately, right? That to me is that's a red flag of maybe they were never supposed to be ranked that high, which weren't they top 10, which is absurd. There's no world where Illinois is top 10.
Yeah. See, I think that's my issue with that is if you go, so I've been trying to play it based on how I've had them ranked moving from the beginning. Illinois I had ranked as number 13 last week. So like, sure, Indiana, I had Indiana at 14. I had them right next to each other. So you beating, granted, they beat them really bad, and that's fine. I only moved them up, 2 spots, 1 spot, because like I just don't get that. Austin, you had Indiana at 19 last week.
Yeah.
You bumped them all the way up to 5 for beating the number. It was your 13th ranked school too in Illinois last week. Like I get it. It was a butt whooping. It was, but I don't think Illinois is also, what was the score? Is like 50 something to 10 or whatever. I honestly don't.
2 points. And I try to stay as consistent as possible on this, especially early in the season with this. First off, I don't know that I've seen an ass whooping that bad in a really long time for like 2 teams that were supposed to be moderately competitive with each other. Like I cannot remember the last time that I just watched a team just get whooped on national television like that. Yeah. I can't. So right off the block, that's point 1. But point 2, I think this early in the year, when we see something like that happen, the preconceived whatever, like, do I think it maybe if Penn State and Indiana played on a neutral field tomorrow, like Penn State would beat them or whatever. But Penn State hasn't beaten anybody, and Indiana just did that. Why would I not reward that? You know?
I mean, yeah, again, that's fair. Yes, Illinois was a top 10 ranked school, Chris. I just went to go look it up. They were number 9 when they played them. So again, that's fair. 63-10. So I was trying to pull up the final score. I have no problem with you moving them up. I just think the 19-5 is a pretty massive jump for that kind of game. But again, I don't disagree with your narrative. Again, the problem is they've also played nobody. Kennesaw State, Indiana State, Old Dominion, and they barely beat Old Dominion. Like maybe just Old Dominion's good. They got Brent Pry fired. So maybe, I don't know, not trying to take shots, Chris. I just, maybe I'm wrong there, but like,
I take it as a compliment. I was glad that it happened.
I just like Indiana has everything in front of them right now with Oregon, Iowa, Penn State coming up down. That's probably the only 3 good teams that they're going to play. They're probably making the playoffs again. I don't think Indiana's a bad team. I just think for me, you can make a lot of arguments for all the teams, at least I have ahead of them, on why they've had better starts to the season than Indiana outside of beating. And again, for me, an Illinois team that I had ranked at 13. So it was not a top 10 matchup win for me.
I mean, really, Penn State is the only team that I even have in my top, I guess Texas, probably top 10, top 11 that doesn't have like a signature win already. I guess Oregon doesn't either, but Oregon has also just been opening up a can on everybody. So it's kind of, but like all these other teams that are ahead of them, Miami has big win over Florida and Notre Dame, although Florida, Florida's, I think we've flipped too much on Florida and everyone thinks they're awful. Like they're giving teams trouble. But like Georgia has a big win, Ohio State has a big win, Texas A&M has a big win, Oklahoma has a big win, Florida State has a big win, like Texas Tech, LSU. Although we can talk about the validity of the LSU one because Clemson appears bad now, but like I just think you have to reward that early in the season and then let the remaining games shake out as they may. Personally, for me,
well, plenty of time. Yeah. That's the really these are just like reasons to talk about football. There's really this should be taken with a grain of salt at this point in the off season or the regular season, and gives you just something to throw on a national TV screen and get viewers is essentially what it is, right?
Exactly. Let's do the next 10 here real quick. We just mentioned Indiana, or do you want to say something real quick, Matt?
I was just going to say, I do think in a way it matters. Obviously, probably not from like our perspective, the 3 of ours, because the national media is not taking anything to account here. But again, I think I mentioned this before when we talked about the very first time we talked about this a couple of weeks ago, like the way that the national media, the AP poll ranks these teams matters to casuals. And that it does matter toward the end of the year when the committee goes and looks at these games. They're like, oh, well, this team beat this many top 10 teams or whatever. Like we saw that a couple of years ago, right? When Ohio State made that run, last year, the big talk from all Ohio State fans, which I disagree with, but I'm just going to say, we have the most impressive national championship run because we beat this many top ranked 10 teams on our way to a national championship. Well, okay, you also played more games, and also was Tennessee really a top 10 ranked team when you played them, kind of thing? You know what I mean? So like, I do think at the end of the day, it does matter the way that they are ranked because it matters to casual fans and toward the end of the year playoff voting.
It gets a little sticky though when it comes to. I definitely agree, and I think that that's a helpful criteria to get somebody in, right? Like,
yeah. But
I do think it becomes a little sticky because we've seen some of these SEC teams in Big Ten, right? Like Illinois is now a top 10 win for Indiana. Like I think there's some of these things where it's like rankings get a little bit skewed because we threw in XYZ SEC team into the top 25 just to kind of prove a point that they have another top 25 win. I don't remember the exact specifics behind it, but last playoffs when they picked the top 12, it was like, well, you threw this team in at 25 to make it happen. I'm more in camp of like, let's do a top 25 starting October 1st, October 15th or something, where you delay it and stop putting Michigan and Notre Dame in the top 10 just because their name is Michigan and Notre Dame, you know?
Yeah.
Let's talk about the next 10 here. We already kind of talked about Indiana there at 11. Texas, we have right now at 12. Georgia Tech at 13. Ole Miss at 14. Mizzou at 15. USC has been steadily moving up here now at 16. TCU at 17, a nice win last week over SMU for them. Iowa State at 18, Tennessee at 19, and Alabama at 20. I mean, I think the only one that we really have that different in that grouping maybe is Iowa State. I think the rest of them were pretty lockstep on it. Indiana, but we already kind of discussed that. Any thoughts on this grouping, Chris?
Iowa State to me feels like I put them 15th. And it's kind of a tough area. You know, they beat Kansas State. What does that really mean? I think a win against Iowa is impressive, as bad as Iowa can be at times. Like, that's a big rivalry game, and being able to get a win there. 4-0, you know, and sometimes it's a little bit of like players and coaches that I'm thinking about. Like, I think Matt Campbell's a good coach. I think Rocco Becht is kind of like a quarterback that can get you. You know, the funny comparison is Brock Purdy, but doesn't it just feel so right? You know, like in a lot of ways. But you know, from that angle, I'm like, all right, these are guys I feel like I can trust enough to put them there. And, you know, I'm not going to like pound the table for Iowa State at my 15 compared to where you have them. But that's just kind of a little bit of why maybe I have them a little bit higher.
Yeah, I mean, for me, I just think that they've been consistently okay, and they are undefeated on the season, which, again, I said before when we talked about this a couple weeks ago, like what you're doing on the field has to matter. It is a top 25 about what you're doing on the field, so I've knocked Notre Dame out of my top 25, which I don't know if we'll talk about, because, again, I don't think they've been that impressive on the field, despite being close in the games you have to win. Kansas State, despite what we may think of them now, was a ranked team when they beat them. They are undefeated. That Iowa game that Chris mentioned, I thought was a good win for them as well, even though it was only by a field goal. They got a chance to win the Big 12 as well. Like, I think that has to be counted into the factor that the toughest game they have left on their schedule is BYU and TCU later on in the year. But I think that they've been a very good team. Again, Matt Campbell's consistently had a very good program in Iowa State, I think, throughout his time there. So I think 15. I don't have a problem with you ranking them all the way down there at 23, but like I think they're in that grouping of teams probably from like the 15 to like the 22, 23, even probably go 25 range. Like, you could rank those in any order, and I wouldn't necessarily have a big issue with any of them.
I think they're the fakest grinded out team in the country right now. Total frauds. I think they'll lose multiple games this year, because I think they're just not explosive enough offensively this year. They're going to let teams hang around, I think, is going to be the big issue for them. They don't really have, I mean, the wide receiver room is, you know, we thought they maybe had found some replacements. I think it's clear at this point they haven't. It's going to be a slog all season for them.
Well, you're not wrong, because in fairness, every game that they've played, the other team has hung around in. So you're probably not wrong there. I'm pretty sure every game they've played, they've won either by like a touchdown or 3 points. I think outside of the South Dakota game.
Yeah. So that was my reasoning for putting them down there. Rounding it out, BYU, Utah, USF, Vanderbilt, and Notre Dame at 25. Do we all have a guy? No, Michigan at 26, Auburn at 27 also received votes here. Yeah. I don't know if you have a guy on your list that nobody else, or a team on your list that nobody else ranked or whatever, sell us on having them top 25. Matt, go first. I mean, who did you have? That's I mean,
I had Michigan over your Notre Dame pick. I think that's the only one. Again, you can say what you want. I get it. Notre Dame played Miami and and Texas A&M, and they were in both games, but they lost Miami by a field goal and Texas A&M by 1 point. They lost those games. And that has to matter. And you can say whatever you want. They barely beat Nebraska. They handled Central Michigan. They let New Mexico hang in there. And I don't think we're actually really in the game against Oklahoma. I really feel like Oklahoma controlled that. But in my opinion, you have a true freshman starting quarterback. Michigan has played much better, in my opinion, throughout this season than I've seen a Notre Dame team play. Notre Dame's defense has not figured out anything from the first game to where we are right now, where I do feel like Michigan's defense is coming into form a little bit better than that. I think that what they're doing from a running back perspective as well, Justice Haynes has been impressive. And I think Chris joked about it in our chat earlier today. I mean, they beat a Nebraska team, which, again, say what you want, they've looked like a good team as well to start this year with a and I don't want to say a backup coach, whatever it was. Sharon Moore was not coaching. It was not your head coach in there coaching the game. And they had to go into Omaha, which, again, is not an easy place to win, and beat Nebraska. And we're talking about a Notre Dame team in the top 5. Why? Because, again, they had 2 close losses. Again, what you do on the field matters. Michigan has got 1 loss to an Oklahoma team that I thought, again, was a very good win for Oklahoma. But Michigan has looked better, in my opinion, throughout the season overall than Notre Dame.
Yeah, I mean, if Notre Dame was 20th to start the season instead of 5 or 8 or whatever they were, would they be in the top 25? I mean, if their name was Arkansas, would they be in the top 25 with the same resume? And I think that's just kind of it. And I don't even think Michigan's overly impressive. I put them 25, but you could have said, okay, well, let's kick him out. I'd be like, yeah, that's fine. But I think there is a little bit of a reward of a close enough game at Oklahoma, a win at Nebraska, the impressive big wins against the smaller schools, which is good to see, beat up the team is supposed to beat up. But I'm not super, again, pounding the table on them at 25. I think it's really just a little bit of preference and what you like and what you value. And, like I said last week, you have to win a game before you can ride this ride. And they did, which is great. But they also gave up 30 points to Purdue. I don't know. That just feels a little bit atypical of what Notre Dame typically is. And so I'm there. But I will say, looking at, you put them 21, and I'm like, which one of these teams would I USS probably the only team that I'm I think I would pick Notre Dame over, but I feel like all of them are fairly tight. I can see reasons why you'd have them above or below, and it would be fine. It's really pick your flavor at this point in the bottom 5 of the top 25. Yeah,
I mean, I would take USF. The only reason I would take USF over Notre Dame is, again, they've done it on the field. They've also been they've been in 3 tough matchups, and they won 2 of the 3. Notre Dame has lost both of those. So again, I think you just have to me, if we're going to talk about top 25 teams in college football, you have to talk about what's happened on the field. That has to matter. Doesn't matter what the logo is on the side of your helmet or the fact you were in a national championship last year. What we think you can do, what should matter is what you do on the field.
What about if they don't have a logo on the side of their helmet?
I mean, then they definitely shouldn't be ranked.
Well, Notre Dame doesn't have a logo. They just have the gold.
It's the Golden Domers. That's the people know who they are.
I know. I'm just messing with you.
I don't have Notre Dame ranked ahead of USC, for example, but I think the score lines on both their losses are more impressive than any of USC score lines so far this year.
You're turning into an SEC guy.
You are.
It's you almost benefit from losing a game. This is the joke me and my friends had 10 years ago. It was you're better off losing on the road in the SEC than winning because hey, you lost.
Did you see that
really
schedule? It's a gauntlet. They're going through. Do you see that? They lost to Auburn.
They beat Purdue by more than
Purdue.
I mean, I think if you want to look at some of these things, I don't think a 1-point loss to A&M and a 3-point loss to Miami or whatever.
But you don't get extra credit for losing when you compare them to a team that's winning. If you want to say 1-2 versus 1-2, why you like Notre Dame more, I think that's completely valid. But I don't think you can say they have better close losses than USC has better wins. Yeah. That's the only thing that I'll argue on that point.
And here's the other thing. I don't think both games are equal either. USC had to travel all the way across the country to play Purdue at home. Purdue had to go to Notre Dame and then still was able to put 30 points on that defense.
Hey,
I understand
you don't want to travel across
the
country. Don't join the Big Ten as a California school.
I'm not saying that. I understand that they've got to own that and get used to it. All those teams do that came from the Pac-12 into the Big Ten, but it's different traveling all the way from the West Coast over to Purdue to play Purdue and then still finding a way to win that game, then Purdue going to Notre Dame. What's that? An hour?
I was just going to say, it can't be that far.
Yeah. And then
Notre
still
Dame
able to put 30 points on that defense.
If Notre Dame and USC were to play this weekend, who would you pick in that game?
USC.
USC.
Comfortably.
Oh, yeah, definitely. I mean, Maeva would throw for like 500 yards.
They put Makai Lemon in the slot. Well, they'll play in a couple weeks, do they not?
They will. They do. I don't know if it's a couple weeks. It's usually
it is because it's
a couple weeks.
It's in LA when it's the way
it's mid-October.
Yeah, it's tied to like the location when it's in.
No. Is it in South? I thought they had to go to Notre Dame this year.
It's one of the I can't remember, but the direct timing of it relates to where it's located because of the weather. I think it is.
Gotcha. Yeah, I'm almost okay. Yeah, but I was almost positive it's at Notre Dame. It's like in mid-October.
And for the record, I have USC ranked ahead of them. I'm just saying, I think once you get down to the bottom there, all those schools at the bottom, either like I have no impressive wins or, I have lost a game. So
at Notre Dame, by the way, when it's at Notre Dame, it's earlier in the year. When it's at USC, it's late in the year is what it is.
Gotcha.
Today I learned. All right. Well, we're going to take this off the screen here and we're going to say that's it for tonight. Apologies to Kirk Herbstreit. We argued USC Notre Dame too long. We had to get him rescheduled. So we will get that done for next week. Again, make sure you check it out.
No apologies to Peter.
The dog? Peter who?
Oh, dear God.
Is that what his dog's name is?
Yeah.
I have a distrust for people who name their dogs like normal names. What are your dog's names, Chris?
Beamer and Sandy.
Yeah, like
dog.
Come here, Pete. I don't know. I think that's weird.
You ever think about the fact that there's like little babies running around called like Bertha? Like at one point, Bertha was a little 6-month-old. Isn't that kind of a funny thing to think about?
It is. Is Bertha short for anything, or is Bertha just Bertha?
Elizabeth.
There we go. Yeah, probably sounds better. This show's gone really off the rails here.
Yeah,
Kirk's pissed now. Kirk's like, y'all talk about Bertha instead of getting me on the show. Yeah.
I will not apologize to his dog. I will never apologize to his dog. Yours walked by pre-show, Chris. I saw.
What's that?
Yours walked by pre-show. I saw it.
Yeah, Beamer's. He follows me around at night.
Nice.
But yeah, he's back here. But yeah.
All right. Well, we will see you guys next week. Good night and good luck.